Hey team, welcome back. We'll give the viewers just a few seconds to get on board. Hopefully we've gone live. Unlike last time, there was a few issues, technical problems and stuff like that. I'll put my hand up and take responsibility for that either way. So hey, welcome on board tonight. Thank you for coming through. Tonight we have a very special guest who we will be introducing in just a second. But right now, let's talk about what we're actually going to be talking about. So tonight, massive topic. This is something, and I'm going to give you guys a bit of an introduction, those of you who are watching tonight, a bit of an introduction and a bit of a personal anecdote of something that happened to me last week later on during the show. But what we're talking about tonight is load and go, what you can do to help out paramedics on scene as a basic life support operator or a first aider, and some of the nuances, some of the problems that we've found in terms of going through and working in that kind of theatre on the other end. So perspectives from both sides tonight. It's going to be awesome. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest tonight. He has an extensive background. He's been a PracMed supporter for a long time, extensive medical background, has been a PracMed supporter for a long time as well. Craig, over to you. What are you about? And yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, team. Well, yeah, as Simon said, I've been hanging around with the PracMed team for a while. I'm ex-Defence Force, ex-Army. I was an officer, unlike the rest of them. From there, I sort of gained a bit of a passion into medicine, and it sort of grew with a couple of friends that were Defence Force medics. From there, I got into the volunteer ambulance sort of side down in Christchurch. I was a volunteer for probably 4 or 5 years and sort of learned my skills there. And then suddenly I decided it was what I was wanting to do, got some more qualifications and got into it as a full-time. And that was 12 years ago. So I've been on the road as a paid officer full-time for 12 years.
Awesome.
So it's been a trip. So I've worked Metro in Christchurch. I've worked up in Gisborne, basically city, and up in Ruatoria, which is just a whole new world. If you want to start talking remote medicine, that is getting out there. And now I'm based out of Hawke's Bay, so I work a rural, sort of a rural and urban environment, which is what I love doing. I love it. I love remote medicine, which is it's quite an interesting field. So that's basically me in a nutshell.
I mean, 12 years, it must be a really kind of interesting period at the moment. Obviously, there's been a lot of change in medicine during that period, especially the pre-hospital side of the house, both with, the point of injury care and also, transport back through to the hospital and so on. So that's absolutely epic, man. And, I think, every Kiwi who's, gone through and been treated by ambulance or whatever else can be grateful for, people with that passion. So, yeah, awesome stuff, man. We're just going to rip straight into it tonight, I think. So we're going to kind of introduce a little bit with regards to response times here in NZ. So this is a really interesting one because I think this sets the scene really well and gives people a bit of an idea that, I mean, you can call an ambulance, but you're probably going to have a bit of a wait time. There is things that you can do in that time. Look, we've talked about a few of these things kind of on previous shows, on the previous kind of live interviews and stuff like that. Tourniquets, burns, CPR, breathing versus not breathing, or standard CPR versus compression only CPR, stuff like that. That's great, but we need to dive a little bit deeper. So just before we go through and get right into it, I want to bring up a little slide here. And this one is a screenshot of national response times. Now, these are response times that we have for, obviously, purple calls, which is, correct me if I'm wrong here, purple calls is life-threatening. Red calls is basically time critical. I'm correct on that one?
Yeah, purple calls are basically our respiratory and our cardiac arrests. So those are our big dollar ones, where you really, time is the critical factor in them. As you said, red is time critical. So your cardiac chest pains, your shortness of breaths, your strokes and things like that, where time is brain matter or time is cardiac muscle. So you want to get to them as quick as you can.
Yeah. Roger that. And when you look at it, in terms of urban purple calls, 50% are answered within 6 minutes, 95% are covered within 12 minutes, and that's incredibly quick. But although that is incredibly quick, 12 minutes is 12 minutes, 6 minutes is 6 minutes. When it comes to the rural side of the house, 95% of calls answered within 25 minutes, which is, again, really good going. But again, we need to think about that, and we need to look at things from maybe a point of view that, hey, maybe we can get things squared away. Maybe we can go through and make sure there's a super succinct handover process or whatever else, and we're going to talk about that tonight big time. And yeah, go through and rock it out like that. Now, the ambulance services have been under strain big time here. There's been some kind of media releases. I think St. John's put one out last week in regards to people just ringing through with things which are certainly probably not what you consider acceptable to call an ambulance for. And that's a real shame, because that sucks up the resource massively. But when we look at those response times again, 25 minutes, 95% of all calls answered urban. That's a long time. So what I want to do is just go through, and I want to basically hand the reins over to you, and let's talk about some of the challenges that you face with regards to going through and getting involved with maybe any kind of call out, random call out. Don't have to be carnage, but basically from woe to go, when you arrive on scene, when you get the call through the radio system, whatever else. Some of the challenges that you face.
Yeah, really, the top to tail on a call, our bread and butter is our elderly. Our over 65s make up probably 80% of our workload. Falls is a critical one. Old people falling is a big issue, and we've got some fantastic backbone in place for that, to falls prevention programs to help them out and things like that. But from where to go, the call either comes from phone call in or a lifelink alarm. If you know the lifelink alarms, it's a button for emergency. They push it and it sends a help, and then it opens up a speaker so they can talk. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. So we'll get the call, it gets paged to us to go to the vehicle. The vehicle then actually tells us all the information that the person's told to them on 111. Nana's fallen over. She's got pain in her left hip. She's been on the floor for 4 hours. It gives us all our mapping and everything, and then we head to the job. So, and then it's also coded in whether it's, as you said, purple, red, orange, green, or grey. So green and greys are real low acuity work. So that they could get triaged out and sent to a secondary line of questioning. So they might get called back by one of our nurses or one of our intensive care paramedics on a desk to just get more information and to sort of weed out some of these calls that you're talking about, saying, can you go to your GP for this? Do you really need an ambulance for your bleeding nose or your headache or your sore finger sort of thing? And they'll work it round. And then if they want a face-to-face, they'll send it to a crew to go and have a look at. But they'll be right down the aisle sort of thing.
Definitely. Yeah. So that's sorry, man. I think there's a bit of lag in the audio. Apologies for that. I think that's an awesome thing, and hopefully that gets implemented more. I mean, at the end of the day, there's only so many ambulances on the road. There's only so much going on out there. I just want to go ahead and share something to kind of set the scene for where we're going to go with this. I'm just going to channel it in. And that is a personal experience which happened last week. I'm going to be very light on the details, obviously, but I want to talk about it. So I was traveling home from work, came around the corner, only roughly 4 or 5 minutes away from where I stay, and came into a scene where all I saw was essentially airbag dust just pluming into the air. And it's a 100-kilometer area, and you know straight away that things are not going to be great when you see that kind of stuff. There's obviously people kind of everywhere, and I was literally only about 10 seconds behind this. So continue down the road, obviously, set up, went stable, had a bit of a look around, and obviously kind of assessed the danger to myself. Got my vehicle up off the road and whatnot as best as I could, and then went through. And the first thing that really struck me was the absolute chaos that was ensuing in such a short period of time. There was 3 casualties. There was 2 trapped inside of a vehicle, T-boned at 100 kilometers an hour. You can do the kind of maths with that. It wasn't a pretty sight. and there was just the most bizarre things happening. Again, I won't go into detail, but in terms of prioritization, it just wasn't happening. And communications back through were pretty limited. So let's talk a little bit about thriving in chaos, shall we? Go through and look at that, because I want to talk about this, and it really sets up. Yeah, it really sets us up going through what we're going to get into, and I'm going to give all the viewers here. I'm going to give you guys a bit of a heads up and give you a really succinct little tool that you can use to go through and certainly help out the paramedics later on, and hear Craig's thoughts on that as well. But yeah, tell us, thriving in chaos, man. That's what you guys do best, I believe. So kind of
what I love about it.
What's some of your tips?
Basically, when I roll up on a job, you'll see me. I won't have a high vis on. I'll put my high vis on, which gives me a couple of seconds, like you did, to pause and look around the scene and like what's going on. Check out the vehicles, check out the people, check out power lines. Is there fuel on the ground? Just basically all my own safety stuff. Is my vehicle parked in a place that's blocking? So I've got it as a barrier sort of thing. Difference is my vehicle's bright yellow with big flashy lights on it. You could still do the same with yours. Somebody comes around the corner, it's better that they plow into your vehicle and not into you while you're walking around out on the road. Put your beacons on, put your flashes on your car, chuck a high vis on so at least you're a target so people can see you. And then have a walk around. Don't touch anything. Walk, look, sort is what I normally do. So we call it triage. So you go in, are they breathing? Go back to your basics. Massive hemorrhage, airways, breathing, circulation. Can you stop it? On the scene, go for it. If you can't, walk on.
Yeah,
and, get that information and then make that call to 111. Using your one, you would be calling and saying, hey, I'm at XYZ place. The really cool thing nowadays with the system is if you don't know where you are, say you don't know where you are. If you've got some of these new smartphones, as soon as you connect the call to 111, ambulance, police or fire, doesn't matter who it is because the CADs pass information between the computer-aided dispatch system, the GPS location off your phone gets instantly sent to the dispatcher. So they've got your GPS lock already. So you would have said you've got two cars T-boned, 2 trapped, 1 out, which is massive information for us. So then automatically know that they want to send fire rescue because they're going to have to cut. They're going to have to send police for scene safety, and they're going to send 3 ambos probably.
Yeah, 110%, man. So what that kind of sets us up with, and it's really, really kind of interesting moving forward from there as well, is that communication. This is something that I noticed really, really quickly. Obviously I wasn't first person on the scene. It's around about 10 seconds behind this kind of thing. But having to organize and go through, it just, again, I'm no stranger to this, but it absolutely reaffirmed the necessity of an awesome primary survey. People kind of roll their eyes a little bit from time to time with the whole doctor's ABCD or whatever primary survey that you happen to be teaching and stuff like that. Man, that stuff absolutely works. And last week was absolute proof in the pudding. I've had feedback from that through a buddy of mine, and I know that those people got through okay, which is just absolutely awesome because it wasn't great. With that being said, when you call through, when somebody arrives on scene, whether it be a paramedic, firefighter, or even a policeman, if they, I see today as well that they've got the introduction of a bunch of AEDs in their vehicle, which is interesting, which is kind of not their primary focus, but it gives them a capability, above and beyond what they had.
In a rural setting, it's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. They're going to freak out when they see what we've got coming online soon, though. That's for sure. That's
an amazing piece of kit.
So basically, what I want to have a look at now is going through and again, kind of diving a little deeper. What are some of the challenges that you faced? I don't know whether you want to provide anecdotes. Again, this is pretty free flow and stuff. If you want to go through and kind of lead us through, what are some of the things that you faced on scene? I mean, for me, it was actually getting people to do a job. I had to repetitively ask people to call through to ambulances and stay on the phone to them, or to 111. Getting people to help me out with working and helping out with the casualties and stuff like that from time to time. It was just it was super chaotic. So yeah, some of the challenges that you kind of face, or things that you've kind of faced. Maybe you want to provide some kind of back.
It's definitely like herding cats. Is probably the best anecdote you could say. They go in all directions. Herding cats is my favorite term for mass people, I think it's because they don't see this day to day, and all of a sudden they're in a crash, or they're in a back queue, like the first 2 or 3 cars in the back queue. People in New Zealand still want to help, which is absolutely fantastic, but they don't know how to, so they get a bit of a spinny and they go racing around. So some people, like you said, we try not to use a lot of bystanders. I'd rather use, as soon as the fireys turn up, all of a sudden I've got 5 big firemen, policemen and things like that. I'll order all my walking carnage to one point, and I'll leave a fireman with them to wrangle them. So it keeps them in one spot, because they'll wander again, and I've got to get something from my car. I need my cell phone. I need this. I need that. Well, your car's upside down in the ditch over there, buddy. It's not a priority. Yeah, it is. That first 10 minutes is just order and chaos. Is finding out what you got, how bad is it, and what other resources do we need? Do we need more resources? Don't we need more resources? Are we calling it a mass casualty? All these other things. So if you don't see the paramedics doing a lot of work in the first 5 minutes, like sticking bandages on people and pulling them out of cars, it's because that's what we're doing. We're trying to get the order out of the chaos. We're trying to get it through our head. What's happening, who we've got, who needs to be prioritized, who we can put to one side, who we can pass off to a couple of our first responder firefighters to start doing, stick a sticky plaster on his head to stop the claret coming out. I need to manage this guy's airway and his massive bleeding and his chest's caved in and things like that. And it's a very complex, fast-paced sort of thing in the first 10 minutes. And then you'll start seeing the order coming out of it while our structure and flow starts going, which it's quite amazing to watch from end to end.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that's a that is a problem within itself, going through and just getting that organisation down packed. And that was certainly one of the things I found really challenging. A lot of my work has simply been in a military context, and it's very easy. You tell somebody to do something, they're going to do it. Simple.
Exactly.
Teammate or whatever else, they're going to. Whereas in civilian context, and I think you nailed a really good point there as well, in terms of people wanting to help and stuff. And this is something that we hear so often, and this is something that I am so passionate about fixing as well, is people going through, look, 10% of people, human psyche, 10-80-10, 10% of people melt down in a critical incident, 80% of people are kind of looking left and right, and then you have 10% of people who do something, but that difference within that 10% is how well they're trained. And for the majority of people who are running through doing standard kind of course every 2 years and stuff like that, they're just finding themselves getting absolutely out of their depth when it comes to even things which are relatively easy to manage. One person, one casualty, one patient sort of thing, and that's just kind of not acceptable. So we need to tidy that up a little bit. So maybe we can go through. Just before we do, I just want to talk very quickly as well as around that point that you just brought up, just before I go into the next part, is around bystanders. Why do you not use bystanders? Is it because the inability to listen, the inability of or the lack of training? Is it just adding to the chaos, not understanding SOP, TDP sort of thing, or what's the story?
It's more of the too much of an unknown factor. It's like, do I need to keep an eye on them? We've got a cars. Especially if you look at it like at a cardiac arrest, fine. You can teach a person to do CPR in about a minute, even less than a minute, 30 seconds. You can teach them to do that, and they can carry on doing it, and they can do it fantastically. It's not rocket science. Because if I'm safe, they're safe at a cardiac arrest. But at a car scene, you've got broken up cars, glass everywhere, fuel oils. It's normally at night. It's normally in crappy weather. And so you've always got that worry in your mind. It's like, where's he gone? Is he wandered out into traffic? There's still traffic coming through the scene. Is he going to get run over? It's sort of, if I've got them, I keep them right next to me and say, "Follow me, carry this, do this."
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
I don't send them loose, they don't get free range.
No, 100% not, man. It's there's no way, especially with the you just cannot have people running around doing their thing,
No. And if you
free
clear the
reign.
scene of the people that, if the scene's clear of the people that aren't involved in the scene, then it's way easier to manage, because all of a sudden you're not counting 20 people running around with cabbage heads. Suddenly you've got a mass casualty because you've got 20 people running around in the middle when 20 of them have just walked up the road to help.
Yeah, man, 100%.
And it's part of the big sort at the beginning, the big triage.
I totally
sort out
agree. Yeah, totally. Triage is obviously very, very important, and I think that kind of leads us very, very well into the next part of what we're going to talk about, and that is solutions to the problem, because it's all good bringing up a problem. It's all good, saying, oh, this isn't great, or that's not great, or whatever else, or the training's not awesome, or whatever else. But we need to bring a solution through. I've always been a massive fan of that. You can whinge all you want, but you need to bring a solution through. So one of the solutions that I bring through is basically a super succinct communication system that you can go through and deliver. It's something that for anybody who is listening in who's military will probably be quite familiar with it. It is something that you cannot become any more familiar with. You need to get familiar with this, because this is something that you should be able to roll off the tip of your tongue. And that, of course, is the MIST section of a 9-liner, or a MIST report, as it's known, or MIST stat.
Yeah.
And what that is another algorithm which goes through, there's various different forms of this. It doesn't really matter which one you use. It is awesome. And this is a super succinct method to go through and communicate back through to an emergency service. So when we talk about MIST, M-I-S-T, it's just a mnemonic algorithm, what do you want to call it, to go through and read off. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to bring it up on the screen over here as well. Forgive me if that doesn't work out too well. Oh, there we go. No, it doesn't. Uh-oh. Okay, so there it is anyway. Apologies, I didn't quite get this right with regards to its spread, but you guys can see there, those of you who are watching. So you see up the top there, it says, or down the left-hand side, it says MIST. And on the top, it says mechanism or medical complaint. So what that means basically is that you have, obviously, this is what you can read back through to an ambulance, or give it on the phone, or give it through to ambulance officer or firefighters who have showed up, or whatever else. And the mechanism is something which is so important, because as Craig brought up before, understanding the mechanism is going to dictate more or less how they anticipate what happens moving forward with regards to, do they require a mechanical extrication from the vehicle? Are they going to have to chop the roof? Do they need the firefighters there to help out? Is there heights? Is there, what's happening here? So yeah, MIST. So from the mechanism of injury, that is just absolutely epic. And again, that goes through and helps out just providing that initial part of the message through to the medics. Then you have the injuries themselves, or I'm just going to bring that little picture back up again. Injuries or identified illnesses identified. Now, this is positively what you can see. Now, as you can see, this is anything from head to toe. That's where your blood sweep comes in handy, making sure that you get squared away. And of course, you're just good basic primary survey. It's just so important. So, that again, I just can't overstate the importance of that primary survey. That is things that you can actually physically see that is going on with that person. The next thing that we have there, of course, is signs and symptoms. Signs and symptoms, this is something which somebody might be presenting with. It's not necessarily something, it's something that you may not necessarily be able to see. What we're talking about here is things like respiratory rate, simply sitting there breathing heavily, if they've got pain, tenderness in their maybe upper left quartile of their abdomen, maybe, they're starting to get a little blue around the lips or the nose, maybe pupils are dilating, level of consciousness has kind of started to drop off and come back a little transient, whatever else. And it's a really, really good system to go through and obviously use to give people a bit of a heads up. And with this kind of stuff, it doesn't have to be fancy. you can go through and just speak in plain English. That's it, and that's honestly that's the best way as well, because if you speak in plain English, then everybody understands it, and it's the best way for you to articulate. If you try and get fancy with it, flash with it, people just simply you're probably just going to confuse yourself unless you work in this theatre, and then you shouldn't have a problem in terms of dealing with this at all. Then the last part, of course, of MIST is treatment. And that is what you've actually done. And that could be anything from going ahead and putting somebody into a side support position and maintaining an airway through positioning. It could be CPR, it could be applying a tourniquet. You might be wrapping up, wound, etc. You might have gone through all the way through to putting hypothermia prevention onto that person, or starting to manage them for that as well. So again, awesome little system. Thoughts on MIST, Craig?
Yeah, we use a modified MIST in ambulance. We use iMIST AMBO, which is pretty much the same. I for identification, which is easy for us. It's who it is, and then same as your MIST, and then the AMBO is allergies, medication, background history, and other information. It's just adding a whole lot more, and that's what we use at our handovers at ED and things. And it's a basic, simple, brilliant tool. If you stick to it, easy.
Yeah, 110%, and that's something that I found extremely easy. When the paramedics turned up on scene to the incident that I was involved in, I gave them the MIST as well last week, and that was just simply, mechanism of injury, T-bone 100 kilometers an hour. I didn't see it, however, came around the corner, and this is what I saw. Injuries, rattled off the injuries. We've got 3 patients, obviously, 1, 2 in the car, and 3 is walking. He's over there. Rattled off the injuries, signs and symptoms, to live that in order once again from most priority to least priority, and that's just with patients as well. And then the treatments are what I did, right. And then from there, they had the ability to go through, make a decision super quick about what was going to happen, and especially as we had 2 patients or 2 carers who were complaining of midline tenderness, suspected spinal injury immediately, given the mechanism as well. It's just like there's just no mucking around with that. As simple as that. So yeah, that's super, super, super important, that MIST algorithm as such. And if somebody,
if we get a handover like that, it's giving us all the information we need. We know the person that's on the other end is got some skill base, either defense or medical. It makes it easier, and then you can think, well, we can leave him with that person, because normally you probably got one vehicle turned up, and then another one, and then fire, and then everybody comes to the party at different times. So no, that's brilliant.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. And it was quite interesting. I mean, the police were the first ones on the scene. They got there, I think it was about 17 minutes into it, and then 19 minutes the ambulance showed up, and not long after that, the fire service showed up as well. So, it was quite interesting. Now I'm just going through and having a look in the comments here as well. It's quite interesting. We've got a couple of people who've chimed in here. And Steve has just dropped us a comment at 7:25 here. Tachycardia versus heart beating really quickly, nice and easy. That kind of goes to the signs and symptoms side of the house. If you're feeling for somebody's pulse, if you're going through and you're monitoring their pulse, or you notice that they're breathing really quickly, or they have a history of cardiac complication, whatever else. And tachycardia, I don't know. Spitting out something like that, I mean, it could be a thing. Heart beating really quickly is very easy, and everybody's going to get that. Yeah. So, 100%. We've got another comment. Sorry, man. Get going.
Well, the old I'm having palpitations. I'm having palpitations.
Yeah. Self-diagnosis is an amazing thing. I mean, I honestly.
What, you're going left or right?
Some people come through just with the most incredible stuff, but hey, look, at the end of the day, at least they're trying, at least they're communicating. That's way better than a quiet patient. I think everybody would agree there. When you've got somebody quiet, that's like, okay,
I hate quiet. Scream as much as you like.
Yeah, no issues there, man. It certainly tells us something about that airway. And another thing is here as well. I might do a little bit of digging in this, unless you can go through and enlighten us. And it's from Chris here. He said, interesting looking at it from the other side too. If 95% is answered under 25 minutes, that means 5% can be waiting there for more than 25 minutes. And that is something that I've kind of had a bit of a look into, not deeply, and I probably have made a few assumptions about it that I shouldn't have. And I probably believe that's things like your extreme sports people, people like mountain bikers who are stuck way out of wop-wops, or hunters and stuff like that who get injured. Maybe those fall from height once again. That can be a real problem. So that's something maybe I don't know whether you've got any data on that or any access to resource, but there's certainly
Not
something
much,
I'd be interested in.
I think it's all built on means. So they take it and average it. So you get a helicopter job that could take 3 hours, as you said, to winch some guy off a mountain, 2 minutes around the corner to pick Nana up, or 1 minute to here. So they just do a mean average of it. The data tracking is incredible. We can see from when the call comes in to when we locate to when we transport to when we locate at hospital. It's all data keyed all the way in. So the data reporting is bang on. But the problem is, and you can attest to this, you were sitting there for about 19 minutes. What did it feel like? Did it feel like 3 hours, or did it feel like 19 minutes?
Yeah, it was quite an interesting one, actually, to tell you the truth. It seemed like 19 minutes because I tell you one thing, and I'm going to just own this right now. It's a mistake that I made. I was traveling home. Obviously, my partner was waiting for me and stuff like that. And when I didn't ring through, when I didn't give her a text message or anything, I mean, there was some pretty bad. There was some people in a pretty bad way. It didn't even cross my mind at the time, but really, honestly, as soon as I realized I hadn't messaged her, and then I thought, geez, she's going to be sitting there at home thinking that I'm the one, maybe, in a real bad way here. Man, then time started dragging its heels big time. So yeah, it's a real thing, bro. For me, everything slows down massively. And it does feel like a lot longer. I mean, I'm pretty efficient at what I do, in terms of going through and just knocking out that primary survey, and that's something, it's really interesting as well. And this is just an observation. Sorry, I'm going segue a little here, but going through and talking, talking as soon as the paramedics rocked up, I gave my missed handover, and straight away, I noticed it was quite good. They went through and started checking over for massive hemorrhage immediately, and they weren't worried about anything else like that. It was just straight away discount that massive hemorrhage. So I don't know whether things have changed with you guys in terms of ANZCOR from a basic life support perspective. It hasn't changed, and that's very disappointing to see. I think that massive hemorrhage. If there's a massive car accident, you can go through. You can pump away on somebody's chest all you want, man. But if you haven't secured a massive hemorrhage, arterial bleeding, life-threatening bleeding, that person's
plugged the gap.
Straight up going to die.
The pump's got no water.
Sorry?
And there's no point. If the pump's got no water, there's no point pumping. It's not going to do anything. That's and it's a whole new subject about trauma resuscitation and getting that through your head that we don't do CPR on trauma resuscitation. You won't see paramedics now doing CPR on somebody at a car crash that's had a massive bleed. You'll see us trying to fix the problem, and then if you don't fix the problem, then you're wasting your time. That's the bottom line.
Yeah,
and that's been a real paradigm change for the older paramedics, that to get it through their head that we don't CPR everything that's not breathing and no circulation.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a oh gosh, okay. And no, you can't just put a tampon in it.
Of course he had to. Of course he had to.
Man. So this topic has raised its head again. This topic's raised its head again in terms of
I think we should ban me from this.
I'm not going to take the bait tonight, Steve. You can just put that down, okay? It's not.
Yeah, you're dangling it. You're not taking it, brother.
Come and do a course if you think tampons are good for gunshot wounds or managing junctional wounds or whatever else. Then come and do a course and I'll explain to you exactly why. But I'm not going to buy into that tonight. But it has raised its ugly head once again. Somebody, some uber popular Navy SEAL dude on the on the Instagram or whatever it is, he's just been flushed out for it. So yeah, not the one. And Mark Basson's chimed in here as well. Blood is time and time. He is absolutely correct there. Obviously, you can't do much with somebody like you said, Craig. If you don't have any blood to go around and around, there's going to be no air going in and out. So you're kind of wasting your time there. So hopefully that's something that ANSCOR has a look at and kind of updates a little bit. I personally would love to see massive hemorrhage put into the for the to see. You got me there?
Yeah, you're just breaking up a bit, buddy, but you're good. And he's back.
Okay. Apologies for the disruption there of the communications. Yeah, it can get a little bit funky out here.
Need to work on comms.
Sometimes. So yeah, anyway, yeah, so yeah, like I was saying, sorry, I don't know where that cut off, but basically if you don't have any blood, yeah, if you haven't got anything going around and around, there's going to be nothing going in and out either. So it's kind of a massive more. He's absolutely correct there. PT or patients calmer as they know what you're saying. When they hear in big fancy words, they assume the worst. Couldn't agree any more with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. We talk to our patients
through and just reassuring somebody, communications of virtue, communication, we break down into a number of different communicating bystanders and then communicating to yourself as well. So yeah, pretty important. Yeah, sweet. Have you got me okay now, man?
Yeah,
Craig,
mate.
have you got me okay now?
Just bouncing a bit, but you're back again.
Comedian Z. I'll go through, have a look at what
it's like you're rapping like Eminem, bro.
To kind of square this way. Have you got me now, Craig?
Yeah, mate. On and off.
Okay, end things here. We'll wrap things. Otherwise, it's going to be problematic. Maybe we can rejoin later on. But either way, thank you so much for coming through and joining us tonight, man. Things on. I'm going to do a bit of a write up on the mist thing.
Yeah,
next day or two, and hopefully we can get that out to